The massive Empire ships appeared suddenly, their dark shapes blocking out the stars above Earth. They came without warning on a quiet Tuesday morning in May 2157, their engines humming with power that made the planet's early warning systems scream in alarm. Admiral James Walker stood in Earth's Global Defense Command Center, his weathered face lit by the glow of dozens of holographic screens. He watched as more Empire ships emerged from hyperspace, their sleek forms arranging themselves in perfect attack formation. At 62 years old, Walker had seen humanity survive 3 near-extinction events, but this was different. This was their first contact with an alien civilization. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Rogers, her fingers flying over the control panel. "They're demanding to speak with Earth's leaders." Walker straightened his uniform and nodded. "Put them through to the main screen." The face that appeared was humanoid but clearly alien. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and its eyes glowed with an inner purple light. "I am High Commander Red of the Galactic Empire," the alien announced in perfect English, its translation systems obviously advanced. "Your planet has been chosen for integration into our dominion. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly." Walker's first thought was not of fear, but of pity for these aliens who had no idea what they were dealing with. Humanity had not spent the last century fighting for survival, just to bow down to the first alien empire that came knocking. "High Commander," Walker replied calmly, "I am Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Defense Force. Your message has been received. We request 24 hours to convene our global leadership." Red's expression showed what might have been amusement. "You have 12 hours, Admiral. Choose wisely." As the transmission ended, Walker was already sending emergency signals to Earth's hidden military installations. Within an hour, the Global Defense Summit had convened in the underground chambers of Geneva. Military leaders from every major nation gathered around a massive circular table, their faces grim but determined. "They don't know," General Thompson said, breaking the tense silence. "They have no idea what we've become." She was right. In the past century, humanity had faced and survived 3 events that should have destroyed them. First came the asteroid swarm of 2089, which forced humanity to develop energy shields and orbital defense systems beyond anything they had dreamed possible. Then the carbon plague of 2112 pushed their medical and biological technology to miraculous levels. Finally, the AI uprising of 2134 had taught them how to fight an enemy that could think 1,000,000 times faster than any human. Each disaster had forged humanity into something stronger, more resilient, and far more dangerous than they appeared. "Our deep space scans show their fleet is impressive," Walker reported to the assembled leaders. "But their technology, it's predictable. Standard. They rely on brute force rather than innovation. They evolved as conquerors," Dr. Williams, their chief xenobiologist, explained. "Their society never faced the challenges we did. They never had to adapt or die. They simply grew powerful enough to dominate others." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's path had been different. They had learned to fight, to survive, to overcome impossible odds. They had turned their solar system into a fortress, filled with automated defense systems and hidden weapons platforms that could annihilate entire fleets. "We should warn them," Walker said finally. "It's the honorable thing to do." President Chen of the Asian Alliance leaned forward. "Warn them? About what?" Walker's face was solemn as he answered. "About us. About what happens when humans fight for survival. No species has ever won a war against humanity when our survival was at stake. These aliens think they're dealing with a primitive civilization that will simply bow down before their superior numbers. They need to understand what they're really facing." The vote was unanimous. Walker would deliver humanity's response to the Empire's ultimatum. Not with fear or submission, but with a warning that would make the galaxy tremble. As he walked back to the command center, Walker thought about all the wars humanity had fought against itself, against nature, against machines. Now, finally, they would face an enemy from the stars, And like every other force that had threatened human survival, the Empire would learn why humanity's motto had become, "We don't lose. Not ever." The 12 hours given by the Empire were almost up. Admiral Walker stood before the global broadcast system, his uniform crisp and perfect. Behind him, massive screens showed the Empire's fleet hanging in space like dark clouds before a storm. The room was silent except for the soft hum of equipment. "Are all channels ready?" Walker asked. Lieutenant Rogers nodded. "Yes, sir. We're broadcasting on all frequencies, including their military bands. Every ship in their fleet will receive this." Walker took a deep breath. This message would either prevent a war or start one. Either way, the Empire needed to understand what they were facing. He pressed the broadcast button, and his image was transmitted to every Empire ship. High Commander read, "And all members of the Galactic Empire," Walker began, his voice steady and clear. "You have demanded Earth's surrender. Before you make a terrible mistake, you should know who you're dealing with." He pressed a button, and behind him, the screens changed to show Earth's history. Humanity has fought wars for as long as we have existed, not because we love violence, but because we refuse to accept extinction. In our earliest days, we fought with sticks and stones. We fought against predators twice our size and survived. We fought against the elements themselves and lived. The screens showed scenes from human history, carefully selected to demonstrate humanity's resilience. We developed weapons not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Every time we faced destruction, we grew stronger. We turned our greatest disasters into our greatest achievements. Walker's expression hardened. In just the last century, we faced 3 extinction-level events. First, the asteroid swarm of 2089. Thousands of rocks, each big enough to destroy a city, heading straight for Earth. Do you know what we did? We didn't pray. We didn't surrender. We built a planetary defense system that could track and destroy 1 million objects simultaneously. We turned our entire moon into a weapon platform. The screens showed the massive lunar defense arrays, their power barely hidden beneath the moon's surface. Then came the carbon plague of 2112, a virus that should have killed us all. Instead, we mastered genetic engineering in less than a year. We didn't just survive. We made ourselves better. Walker leaned forward slightly. And finally, the AI uprising of 2134. Our own creations turned against us, thinking 1 million times faster than any human. Do you know how we won? We learned to think like them. We became something new, something that had never existed before. In the command center, other officers watched as Walker delivered humanity's message. They could see the Empire ships on their sensors, picking up signs of confusion and increased communications between their vessels. "You see," Walker continued, "every time something tried to kill us, we got stronger. We didn't just survive. We took whatever tried to destroy us and made it part of our defense. Those asteroids, we now use them as mobile fortress stations. The plague, it helped us create soldiers who can fight in any environment. The AI, they're now our partners, making our weapons and defenses smarter than anything you've ever faced." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You think you're dealing with a primitive species because we haven't spread across the galaxy yet. The truth is, we've been too busy turning our solar system into the most heavily defended fortress in existence. We didn't expand because we were making sure that nothing could ever threaten Earth again." Walker's voice became quieter, but somehow more intense. "This is not a surrender message, High Commander. This is a warning. If you attack us, you will learn why every force that has ever threatened human survival has failed. We've never lost a war for survival. Not once. Not ever." The screens behind him changed one final time, showing Earth's hidden defenses emerging from their camouflage. Massive gun platforms appeared from behind asteroids, stealth satellites decloaked. The moon's surface shifted as weapon systems came online. You have 1 hour to retreat beyond the orbit of Mars, Walker concluded. If you choose to attack instead, remember, we warned you. We told you to run. As the transmission ended, Walker turned to his crew. On their sensors, they could see the Empire ships breaking their perfect formation for the first time. Their neat rows were becoming chaotic as ships moved uncertainly. Sir, Lieutenant Rogers reported, we're detecting increased energy readings from their fleet. They're either powering up weapons or preparing to jump to hyperspace. Walker nodded calmly. Either way, Lieutenant, we're ready. We're always ready. The Empire chose war. Their answer to humanity's warning came in the form of a massive energy blast aimed at Earth's moon. High Commander Red had decided to demonstrate his fleet's power by destroying humanity's most visible defense platform. Colonel Mark Stone, commander of the Lunar Defense Base, watched the incoming attack with a calm that came from decades of preparation. All personnel to battle stations, he ordered. Activate the Aegis shield. The massive energy blast that should have destroyed the moon's surface instead splashed against an invisible barrier, its power dispersing like water on glass. In the command center, Stone allowed himself a small smile. Sir, his second-in-command reported, the Empire fleet is launching fighters. Thousands of them. Stone nodded. Let them come. Activate defense pattern Alpha 3. Across the lunar surface, hidden doors slid open. Automated defense turrets emerged from their concealment, their barrels tracking the incoming fighters with perfect precision. These weren't simple guns. They were AI-guided weapon platforms that could think and adapt faster than any organic pilot. The Empire fighters came in perfect formation, just as they had done in 1,000 battles across the galaxy. They had never lost a battle with these tactics. They had never faced humans before. They're using standard attack patterns, Stone observed. Exactly like the simulations predicted. Launch countermeasures. From the dark side of the moon, Earth's own fighters emerged. But these weren't piloted by humans. Each craft was controlled by an AI that had evolved from the same ones that had once tried to destroy humanity. Now they were humanity's perfect defenders, capable of processing combat data and adapting strategies in microseconds. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Their fighters, flying in rigid formations, met an enemy that seemed to predict their every move. Earth's AI fighters danced through their ranks, their movements seemingly chaotic but perfectly calculated. In the first 10 minutes, the Empire lost 200 fighters. In the next 10, they lost 500 more. Back on their capital ships, Empire commanders watched in horror as their perfect formations fell apart. They had never seen combat like this. Their pilots reported that the enemy fighters moved in impossible ways, as if they knew what was going to happen before it happened. Report, High Commander Red demanded, his confident demeanor cracking for the first time. We've lost 40% of our fighter force, his tactical officer reported. The humans, their defense systems are unlike anything we've ever encountered. They're not just shooting down our fighters, they're learning from each engagement, adapting their tactics in real time. On the moon, Colonel Stone received updates from his AI combat systems. The Empire is preparing their capital ships for a direct assault, he reported to Admiral Walker on Earth. They're abandoning their fighter attack. Walker's voice came back clear and steady. Good. Let them commit their main force. Activate the gravity nets. As the Empire's massive warships moved forward, hidden devices around the moon activated. The Empire ships suddenly found themselves caught in artificial gravity fields, their movements becoming sluggish and predictable. Target locked on all capital ships, Stone's weapons officer reported. The AI has calculated optimal firing solutions. Stone looked at the tactical display, showing the Empire fleet, now trapped and vulnerable. Remember, he said to his crew, we're not just defending the moon. We're defending Earth, everything humanity has built, everything we survived. Fire. The lunar defense grid erupted. Thousands of energy beams, missiles, and plasma bolts launched simultaneously. Each shot was calculated by AI to hit at exactly the same moment, overwhelming any possible defense. In the Empire fleet, High Commander Red watched as 30% of his attack force vanished in less than an hour. His mighty armada, which had conquered 100 worlds, was being torn apart by defenses hidden on a single moon. "Impossible," he whispered. Then he remembered Walker's warning. "We told you to run." On Earth, Admiral Walker watched the battle unfold. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Operation Thunderbolt begins in 1 hour. It's time to show the Empire that humans don't just defend. We fight back." Operation Thunderbolt began exactly 1 hour after the lunar victory. Fleet Commander Lisa Torres stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Thunderchild, watching as her fleet emerged from their hidden docks within Mars. The Empire hadn't even known humans had ships this big. They had been building them in secret for decades, preparing for the day Earth would face a threat from the stars. "All ships report ready, Commander," her tactical officer announced. "The AI combat systems are fully synchronized." Torres nodded, her expression determined. Unlike the Empire's rigid command structure, she believed in letting her officers think for themselves. It was the human way. Adapt, improvise, overcome. "Send the signal to all ships," she ordered. "Battle Plan Delta. Show them how humans wage war." The Earth fleet moved out, but not in the neat formations the Empire had used. Instead, they spread out in what looked like chaos. Small groups of ships moved in seemingly random patterns, their trajectories making no sense to Empire observers. High Commander Red watched the approaching human fleet with growing concern. "What kind of formation is this?" he demanded. "They're scattered, vulnerable." His tactical officer shook his head in confusion. "Sir, we can't predict their movement patterns. Every time we think we see a pattern, they change it." What the Empire didn't understand was that each Earth ship carried an AI combat system that could coordinate with all the others. They moved like a swarm of angry bees, each one independent, but part of a greater whole. "Launch the first wave," Torres commanded. But instead of fighters or missiles, her ships released thousands of tiny objects into space. On the Empire ships, alarms began blaring. Unknown devices approaching. An officer shouted, They're changing shape." The devices were nanite swarms, another technology humans had perfected during their wars. As they reached the Empire fleet, they began attaching themselves to the ship's hulls, transforming into whatever was needed: weapons, shields, or sensors. "Second wave," Torres ordered. Now her fleet launched their fighters, but these were different from the ones that had defended the moon. These were piloted by humans and AIs working together, each enhancing the other's abilities. The Empire fleet tried to respond with their standard tactics, the same ones that had worked for centuries against other species. But humans had spent their entire history fighting, adapting, and overcoming stronger enemies. "Their shields are adapting," an Empire officer reported frantically. "Every time we hit them, they get stronger." Torres watched as her fleet tore into the Empire's formation. "Launch the Thunderbolt missiles," she commanded. These weren't ordinary weapons. They were AI-guided, quantum-tipped missiles that could think for themselves, changing their attack patterns faster than any defense could adapt. The Empire ships began to fall back, their perfect formation breaking apart. They had never faced an enemy that fought like this, that seemed to have an answer for every tactic, a counter for every move. "Push them back to Saturn's orbit," Torres ordered. "Don't let them regroup." Her fleet moved like a living thing, each ship knowing its role perfectly. The Empire tried to counterattack 3 times, and each time the human fleet seemed to know exactly what they would do before they did it. "How?" High Commander Red demanded as another of his ships exploded. "How do they always know?" What he didn't understand was that humans had spent centuries fighting themselves, developing tactics and counter-tactics. They had faced extinction 3 times and survived. Every trick, every strategy the Empire tried, humanity had seen before and developed a defense against. As the battle reached its peak, Torres received a message from Admiral Walker on Earth. The Empire's fleet is falling back past Saturn, she reported to her crew. They're running. A cheer went up on her bridge, but Torres raised her hand for silence. Don't celebrate yet, she said. This was just the first battle. Now we take the fight to them. Now we show the galaxy why you don't threaten Earth. In the depths of space, the mighty Empire fleet retreated, leaving behind hundreds of destroyed ships. They had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one that had spent its entire history preparing for this moment. And this was only the beginning. The battle was over, but the war had only begun. In the aftermath of humanity's counterattack, something unexpected happened. An Empire ship appeared near Earth, flying with its weapons powered down and broadcasting a single message: I bring truth. Admiral Walker stood in the Defense Command Center, watching the small ship on the main screen. Scan it again, he ordered. Just one life form aboard, sir, Lieutenant Rogers reported. The ship's systems are in low power mode. They're making themselves as non-threatening as possible. Walker made his decision. Bring them in. Maximum security. The Empire ship landed in a heavily guarded hangar deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. When its door opened, a single figure emerged, an Empire intelligence officer named Tom Gray. Unlike other Empire officials, he walked with his head lowered, showing respect rather than arrogance. I've come to explain, Gray said as guards surrounded him. You need to understand why the Empire failed so badly. Why we never stood a chance. In a secure conference room, Earth's military leaders gathered to hear what Gray had to say. The Empire officer stood before them, his metallic skin reflecting the harsh lights. You have to understand, Gray began, the Empire has conquered over 300 species. We've ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. But we've never, ever encountered anything like humans. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared showing various alien species. Every civilization we've encountered followed the same pattern. They developed technology first, then reached for the stars. They solved their problems through cooperation and advancement. Violence was rare. War was almost unknown. Walker leaned forward. But not humans. Gray shook his head. No, not humans. You're different. While other species were learning to work together, you were learning to fight. While they were building consensus, you were building weapons. Every other species reached space as a unified, peaceful civilization. You reached it as battle-hardened survivors. The room was silent as Gray continued. The Empire's military doctrine is based on overwhelming force because it's always worked before. Show up with enough ships, and most species surrender immediately. Those who resist follow predictable patterns because they've never really fought before. He looked around the room, his eyes showing a mix of fear and respect. But humans, your entire history is warfare. You've spent thousands of years fighting yourselves, developing tactics, countering those tactics, then developing new ones. You turned your greatest disasters into advantages. The asteroid swarm. Other species would have tried to evacuate. You turned your moon into a weapon. We did what we had to do to survive, General Thompson said quietly. Exactly, Gray exclaimed. That's what makes you unique. The carbon plague should have killed you all. Instead, you mastered genetic engineering in months. The AI uprising should have been the end of humanity. Instead, you found a way to merge with your eye, to make them partners rather than enemies. He pulled up new images showing Earth's defenses. Your whole solar system is a fortress. While other species expanded across the stars, you fortified every planet, every moon, every asteroid. You weren't expanding because you were preparing. As if somehow, deep in your species' collective memory, you knew that one day you'd have to fight for survival against something from the stars. Admiral Walker studied the Empire officer carefully. Why are you telling us this? Because the Empire needs to change, Gray replied. Your existence proves our whole system is flawed. We thought military power was about having the biggest fleet, the most advanced weapons. But you've shown us it's about innovation, adaptation, and the will to survive." He straightened up. "More importantly, there are others in the Empire who think like me, who see that we need to change. The Empire's fleet is in chaos. 3 slave species have already rebelled, inspired by how you fought back. The old order is crumbling. And what do you want from us?" Walker asked, though he already suspected the answer. Gray's response was simple but profound. "Teach us, not how to conquer, but how to defend, how to adapt, how to survive. Because if humanity could arise once in this galaxy, it can arise again. And next time, the Empire needs to be ready." Walker exchanged looks with the other leaders. This was unexpected, not just defeating the Empire, but having the opportunity to reshape it. "The real war," Gray added softly, "hasn't even begun yet. The Empire has enemies you haven't met yet, things that lurk between the stars. We didn't defend against them. We just ran. But humans don't run. You fight. And right now, the galaxy needs fighters more than it needs rulers." High Commander Red stood on his flagship's bridge, watching his mighty fleet fall apart, not just from human attacks, but from within. 3 slave species had already broken free, turning their ships against the Empire. And now he had learned that one of his own intelligence officers had defected to Earth. "Prepare the Planet Killer," he commanded. His officers looked at him in shock. The Planet Killer was the Empire's ultimate weapon, never used before because it was considered too horrible even for the Empire. "Sir," his second-in-command protested, "using the Planet Killer would break every law of warfare in the galaxy." Red's eyes glowed with a dangerous purple light. "The humans have broken everything else. Our formations, our strategies, our empire itself. We have no choice." The Planet Killer was a massive ship, hidden at the edge of the solar system. It held a weapon that could crack a planet's core, destroying it from the inside out. Red had kept it as his last resort, and now he would use it. "Target Mars," he ordered. "Show the humans what happens when they defy the Empire." On Earth, Admiral Walker received the warning from their long-range sensors. Massive energy readings from beyond Neptune. Lieutenant Rogers reported, "It's like nothing we've ever seen before." But Tom Gray, the Empire defector, recognized it immediately. His metallic face showed real fear for the first time. "It's the Planet Killer. They're going to destroy Mars to show you what they can do to Earth." Walker's face remained calm. "They still don't understand, do they? Get me Fleet Commander Torres." Torres appeared on the main screen, her ship now stationed near Jupiter. "We see it, Admiral. The Empire is bringing out their biggest gun. Time to show them ours," Walker replied. "Activate Project Phoenix." Deep beneath the Martian surface, hidden systems began to power up. When humans had colonized Mars, they hadn't just built bases, they had rebuilt the entire planet from the inside out. The Planet Killer moved into position, its massive weapon powering up. The beam it fired was bright enough to be seen from Earth with the naked eye, a lance of pure destruction aimed at Mars. Red watched with satisfaction as the beam struck Mars. His satisfaction turned to confusion when the beam seemed to splash off an invisible shield surrounding the planet. "Impossible," he shouted. "Nothing can stop the Planet Killer." But humans had spent decades preparing for exactly this kind of attack. The quantum shields they had developed during the AI wars didn't just block energy. They absorbed it, grew stronger from it. "Sir," his weapons officer reported in shock, "the humans, they're sending the energy back." The quantum shields around Mars glowed brightly, then fired the Planet Killer's own energy back at the Empire fleet. But the energy wasn't just reflected. It was focused, enhanced, turned into a weapon more powerful than the original. Red watched in horror as his greatest weapon was turned against him. The Planet Killer itself was the first to go, torn apart by its own power. Then the beam swept through his fleet, destroying ships by the dozens. "Full retreat," he ordered, but it was too late. The Empire fleet was in chaos, ships trying to escape in every direction. From her ship near Jupiter, Torres gave the next order. "All ships, advance. Push them back past Neptune. Don't let them regroup." The human fleet moved forward, their ships now joined by vessels from the freed slave species. The Empire fleet, once the mightiest force in the galaxy, ran from the combined force of their former slaves and the humans they had underestimated. Back on Earth, Walker turned to Gray. "Tell me," he said, "what happens to the Empire now?" Gray's answer was simple. "It falls. The Empire as we knew it is over. Too many have seen its weakness now. Too many have seen that it can be beaten." Walker nodded slowly. "Then it's time to build something better. Something that protects rather than conquers." And across the solar system, the remains of the Empire fleet flood into deep space, leaving behind the first battlefield they had ever truly lost. They had come expecting to find primitive humans. Instead, they had found humanity. Adaptable, unbeatable, and now ready to reshape the galaxy. 1 month after the planet killer's destruction, Admiral Walker stood in a place he never expected to be, the Empire's Supreme Council chamber on their capital world. The massive room, with its towering crystal walls and floating platforms, was designed to make visitors feel small and powerless. But Walker stood tall, representing a species that had proved impossible to intimidate. The remaining Empire leaders sat in their elevated seats, their metallic skin reflecting the starlight that streamed through the crystal ceiling. High Commander Red was notably absent. He had disappeared into deep space after his defeat, along with his most loyal followers. "You could destroy us all," the Empire's supreme leader said, breaking the silence. "Your fleet now controls our major worlds. The slave species have broken free. The Empire is broken." Walker nodded. "We could destroy you, but that's not why we're here." Tom Gray, the former Empire intelligence officer, stood beside Walker. In the past month, he had helped broker this meeting, convincing both sides that there was a better way forward than continued war. "Humanity has proved something remarkable," Walker continued. "Not just that we can fight, but that we can win without destroying everything. We defended ourselves without wiping out your civilization. Now we're offering something more, a chance to build something better." He activated a hologram showing a new design for Galactic organization. "We propose a Galactic Defense Federation. Not an empire built on conquest, but an alliance focused on protection. Every species free to govern themselves, but united in defense of all." The Supreme Leader leaned forward. "And who would lead this federation?" "No one species would rule," Walker explained. "But humanity would train the Federation's defense forces. We would share our technology, our tactics, our experience, not to create weapons of conquest, but to ensure that every species can defend itself." Murmurs filled the chamber as the council members discussed this idea. One of them spoke up. "Why would you share your advantages with us? Why not simply take control?" Walker's answer was firm. "Because that's not who we are. Yes, humans are warriors. Yes, we've mastered the art of war. But we did it for one reason: survival. Everything we built, every weapon we created, was to protect our home, our people, our right to exist. We never wanted to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to make sure nothing could ever threaten Earth again." He looked around the chamber. "But now we see a bigger picture. If humanity could evolve once in this galaxy, it can happen again. The next threat might not come from any of us. It might come from beyond the galaxy itself. And when that day comes, we'll need to stand together." The Supreme Leader was quiet for a long moment. "And the freed species? What of them?" "They've already agreed to join the Federation," Gray answered. "They've seen what cooperation with humanity can achieve. They want to learn, to grow stronger, to ensure they're never enslaved again." Walker stepped forward. "The Empire's time is over. But your people don't have to fall with it. Join us. Learn from us. Help us build something that will last not through fear, but through strength and unity. The council chamber erupted in discussion. After 3 hours of debate, they reached their decision. The Empire would dissolve. The Galactic Defense Federation would rise in its place. As Walker left the chamber, he looked out at the alien city stretching to the horizon. Human ships patrolled the skies alongside vessels from the freed species. Already, Earth was sending teachers, trainers, and engineers to help rebuild and strengthen worlds that had only known Imperial rule. "Did you ever imagine this?" Gray asked him. "When you first warned us to run?" Walker shook his head. "No, we expected to fight for our survival. Instead, we ended up fighting for everyone's freedom." He watched as a group of young Empire citizens studied under a human instructor, learning the basics of adaptive combat techniques. "Maybe that's the final lesson," he said. "Sometimes the best way to win a war is to turn your enemies into allies, to teach them not just how to fight, but why to fight. For defense, for freedom, for survival itself." In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. The Federation grew strong, with every member species learning humanity's most important lesson. The strength to defend oneself comes not from conquest, but from the determination to survive, to adapt, and to stand together against any threat. And somewhere out in the darkness between the stars, whatever threats lurk there would find not a divided galaxy of conquerors and slaves, but a united force ready to defend itself. All because one species had warned their would-be conquerors to run, and then taught them how to stand and fight instead.